Thank you. We will call this budget advisory committee workshop to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. Mr. Curtis does have the roll to call tonight.
Mr. Ray Atkins.
Aye. Here.
Let's go, Ken.
All right. Mr. Atkins votes here.
We have the meeting.
Mr. Atkins present. Mr. Will.
Here.
Mr. Mullins is absent tonight. He sends his regrets. Ms. Curtis.
Here.
Chairman Thomas.
I'm here.
I am here. Ms. Crystal Alexander.
Here.
Mr. Randy Gannon. Diane Hickman, and her presence is Mr. Applebaum. Mr. Jennings.
Here.
Ms. Brandon.
Here.
And Mr. Terry Reagan.
Here.
Madam Chairman, you do have a quorum with 2 absent tonight.
Thank you very much. The second item on tonight's agenda, of course, this is a workshop. We'll have open discussion, of course, among all of us. But the second item that we do have listed tonight is a review of our meeting dates and times for next month, all the way through May the 11th. We, last time we gathered, we set 3 dates. We set this one, March the 27th will be the next one. That will also be at 6 p.m. That evening, we have secured Ms. Marianne Durkee, and she will be Zooming with us that night.
Or in person.
Or in person. There's a possibility she may come in person, but she's going to be here to discuss what TISA is really going to look like and kind of give us firsthand knowledge of that. And so we're excited to finally get her on the books. So she'll be here for the March meeting. And then in April, it is April the 24th. April the 24th. May, the 1st of May is when we will be submitting the budget board members to the commission. It will first go to the budget committee of the commission, and then it will go on to the commission to be passed. So those are our dates, all at 6 p.m. in this room. So, here we go. Okay. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda, just to kind of get the discussion going, is to look at the 2022-23 budget, the current budget year-to-date review. Mr. Jennings sent that, I know, out to the board members. I believe that it went out to everyone. And so I had Mr. Curtis print me a copy of it. Did everybody have that? I think it looks like Mr. Reagan has it over there. But that was the latest one. I'll get that out in a second. Sorry, that was sent on, looks like it was pulled on February the 6th.
January.
And it was for January, yes, January's year-to-date budget. If you'll see that 5th column over, if you guys can see that, that's the year-to-date, that's what we've spent so far. And then, of course, the 3rd column is the amended budget. That's what we had, that's what has been, had any amendments to it so far, but that is the current budget. And the year-to-date is the 5th column over. And then, of course, the last column is the percentage of the budget that has been used so far. Is that correct? Is that correct?
So when was that sent?
That was sent,
Is it sent from Douglas?
it is from Douglas.
Oh, okay, financial reports for January.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. I was about to say I forwarded it today to Mr. Curtis to make me a copy because it's, if anybody's looking for it, I'm looking. It was sent on February 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, February the 6th. So, as we look at that, I don't know if anyone has anything that they're seeing stepping out to them. In the last few days too, Mr. Jennings, board members, I know he sent it to us because ultimately this is our decision. He sent 3 different options for pay scales. One, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I slept since then. One, yeah, you have to, maybe together we'll get it. One is for 42, one is for 45, and one is at 47. Yes. And those are the different scales that he sent us so we could kind of compare those. I don't know if you got a chance to look at those, but they are in your email if you pull them up. I want to say this, starting out, I know that our biggest line item are salaries. With what is going on in education, and Mr. Nichols is here, I'm sure he can, I think he'll agree with me. There is a shortage of educators, and so educators have options. And with the times we live in now, cost of living is higher, these teachers have to think of their families. And we have some very loyal teachers to Cannon County. But we have to, I'll use the word bless, we need to bless them, but we also have to be competitive. Because we have holes in our system where teaching positions have not been filled. Because we need more educators. And so they have a choice of where to go. So I think that we have to consider that moving forward. Looking at this budget, we need to be competitive. Any comments about that at all from anybody else?
Well, I think I addressed the committee last time. When you have other counties around us going a lot higher than what we are, it would be detrimental to our system. And I know people don't want to talk about Rutherford, but they are next door. We had educators leave us last year after restructuring and left and went to Rutherford. But you got them, they're currently doing a study. All indications are theirs will be 48 to 50 as starting salary. And I anticipate probably 50 if my sources are correct. And then you got DeKalb already at 47 going to 48, it looks like, up to 48. And Warren probably at least 47. So here you would be sitting between 47 and 50. And if you don't go at minimum at least to 45, it would be detrimental to our system at that point. You know, when you see that Mr. Nichols is already needing, we could go online there and show you what we got right now, the vacancies that we have. He needs a chemistry position. He needs we need a Spanish position. The Spanish position has been open and there's not been an inkling of a bite there. Much less kindergarten. I'm needing 2 kindergarten teachers right now. Hadn't even a stirring from on those 2 positions. I have one at North and one at elementary. So I've had to put an aide in that classroom that is needing that and using somebody that's just really certified. She's going to be certified by the end of, by May. She'll be certified, but yet I've had to put her in there as basically a sub and a certified teacher there. So even now, even with what we're doing now, as we're decently competitive, but it depends on what the state minimums are going to be. And you heard the governor in the state of the state. He said, I'd like to have the minimum salary in Tennessee by $50,000 by the end of his administration. And he just elected, so you could say he was elected in 2022, 4 years from now, it's 2026, it'll be $50,000. So we've got to go from 40 now, from where we're at. We were thinking 42, and Douglas and I had a conversation multiple times. I said, prepare for 42. I've been saying that for a year or longer. Prepare for 42. And then we see the developments, what we've had. Now, we are going to get more probably in TISA, but we won't know that. The specifics on that, I don't even know if Mary Ann will know that when she visits us here in the next, on the 27th next month. So my suggestion to you is just be prepared to, I would do minimum of 45. Now, my job will have to be to go back and to see how that affects that line on your paper right there. How does that affect every line item on that, plus the federal side? And the pre-K, they ought to be, hopefully they'll be doing that anyway on the other side, pre-K side. from the state. But we've got to, you've got to look at it as the biggest part of this budget, on where every one of those positions are, how much is it going to go up from where we are now to where we are. But like I said, we've got vacancies now that we can't fill.
Mr. Reagan?
It's unfortunate that we sit in the middle of surrounding counties that are much more prosperous and can afford to pay their teachers a whole lot more than we can. We're saddled with the facts, and that is that we're in a small county. We haven't reached the threshold where we can get an extra 5% because Mr. Curtis hasn't been successful in his lobbying yet to get us the extra 5%.
Maybe next year.
And it sounds good to project that, but before you can really do a budget, the board needs to decide what you want to pay the teachers. You're going to have to say, we're going to pay them 42, we're going to pay them 45, we're going to pay them 48. There's nothing that we can do to finalize the budget and to tell you whether you're going to be able to make it or not until you make that decision. So that's something that you really need to think about. What level do you want to begin this process with?
Are we adding that to the March agenda?
And we can't wait until the last minute to do it. Can't wait until.
We won't know officially, Terry, until
Well, I know what we.
May, but after the budget's already due to the commission. I mean, you won't know officially that.
Well, we understand that.
And we've tried to push the state board to do it quicker, but they won't do it because the governor's probably not going to have their budget done, through the legislature until, late April. So
Well, it's better to have a plan
I'd rather do it now, like you, I'd do it now.
than to wait till the last minute and then fumble through it.
Usually we start hearing a little bit in the rumor mill. Rumor has it. Well, I haven't heard anything this year.
You won't.
Most of the time we hear a little something.
The commissioner has said in our last broadcast to us, the commissioner has said that with the governor saying 50 by the end of his administration, you would probably do that in increments. But if 40 is the minimum right now in Tennessee, which it is, then you're going to have to go, if you did it in increments, and, to those 4 years, every year you do one, you'd have to move it at least to 43, 44, and then again, 45, 46, 47, 48, and that next year probably go from 48 to 50. So
You just have to hope when they do that, they put the fund in to follow it.
now
But another thing you have to remember is that, we may be riding sort of high this year because we've got extra money. But next year we don't. We used it all up. It's gone. And there are a number of teaching positions that are totally dependent on that funding. And so that's all going to fall right down into your base, and you're going to have to come up with the money. You have to think about that too.
I had read somewhere that Governor Lee was considering not taking the federal. I don't.
well, that has been brought up by the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, has brought that moving forward as saying that we're okay that Washington can keep their money, but that is very dangerous and to talk as an educator. That to me, that's a very dangerous situation.
Absolutely.
If you're going to say, just forget you, federal government, guess where Esther came from, folks? Tennessee.
Absolutely.
It was Tennessee. So to me, and I know there's strings attached, I understand that, but there's strings, I'll just tell you, there's strings attached from Nashville. We see that every single day. Especially board members have been on here for a while, we see the restrictions that Nashville puts on us. And the commission has seen that too, because of you're saying, well, Nashville said to do this, that you're going to have to give a certain amount of people this pay on elected officials. This is what the state is telling you. And I'm sure Neil can tell us a whole lot more about the state stipulations. So you talk about regulations, we're all got regulations to that. So I'm just saying, I don't think that, but if the speaker's pushing it may have more steam. I watched the legislature today, and, that may have steam for that.
That will greatly impact
it would impact us if we just said, but here's the deal. If they agree to that, okay, then they're gonna have to replenish those federal funds that are in our budget now. And I think about title, I think about food service and those things that we get direct, and I can bring Ms. Mullins in and she'd be glad to talk to you about what her, budget covers. It would be, the state would have to replace all of those funds. Maybe I'm, delusional to that point because I'm getting old and cantankerous, I guess. But just think about, when we think about the high school, Mr. Nichols is here, what he gets in federal funding, special ed will be hit majorly.
Yeah.
And and I think what they're just trying to say, hey, you keep your regulations, Washington, and we'll do it Tennessee's way because we're pretty prosperous right now. Well, that's right now. What's going to happen, down the road is the situation. So that's Michael. He's playing. So he's probably adjusting his microphone.
So my question is, okay, so we basically don't know how much money we're getting because we don't know, what they're gonna do with TISA or whatever. So if we put this budget in and then we get more money than we anticipated, can you go back and you can amend it and put the money back in?
Mhm.
Okay.
And by May 15th, we ought to have a better indication. Mary Ann will tell you that next month.
They
That's gonna be a
should.
little late for us.
I got an email from our
Amen.
fiscal consultant today, and they're supposed to give us some kind of an estimate late February, early March. Supposed to. That doesn't mean it'll happen.
Right.
That at least give us something to start with, which is more than what we have now.
Right now, we have a letter from March of last year that said we would get 1.4 million more. And other districts have gone through, looked at their numbers and trying to see that. We've done some of that, but we're trying to say, where are we going to be? And it's not, again, the last thing we got from Marion Dursky was the regular BEP, is like the old BEP, but they were trying to put TISA numbers into the old BEP way of doing things.
So how much money did we get last year?
Well, you can look, Douglas, that'd be a question for you on how much we
I
received.
think it's like 12 million something.
Okay.
That's just the BEP, and then you got, along with it, you got salary equity, and that was like 113,000, something like that.
Okay.
And then, of course, you get the other grants and things.
Okay.
The thing to remember, though, we've had a separate grant for coordinated school health, and a separate grant for school safety, and that's all gonna be part of the new formula, so you won't have that coming in a separate line item anymore, it'll all come in together.
And that
I don't know what the
safety.
requirements are gonna be on that, because the way it's been done, we request reimbursement after funds are spent. And I don't know if they'll automatically send that, I don't know what the requirements are gonna be.
Going back to the question you had, Mr. Mill, you asked the question and then conversation kept going. You said, what Mr. Reagan said is, we have to decide, the board needs to decide on that. With the discussions of, this, we usually do not vote on a set budget until that May meeting. We would have to give our suggestion as a unit of 5 in these workshops. Hey, let's look at this. So we don't make, and let's go with, say, if we take a suggestion here, 45, let's go with that 45 round number, if the 5 of us can kind of come cohesively to agree to that, and then let's look at that. Well, we can't vote on that until we get the formal final budget, but can we start with that round number through these discussions and talks? We can do that. Yeah. And then we vote on it.
I think,
We've even
unless
changed
I'm
the
badly fooled, I think you're going to have to, if you do something like 45 or 47, which, I'm all for the teachers getting good pay, but I think you're gonna have to find serious places to cut in the budget. Maybe cut positions, have fewer positions, but you cut more. Maybe looking at funding hard to find positions a little bit differently, or have a longevity pay for people that stick with us. Um, You know, another thing that could happen, it kind of happened this year with the aides. We didn't get a penny more in pre-K this year than we've got the year before. And with the significant increase in the pay for the teachers and the aides, GP's having to pay 2 pre-K aides this year. That's never happened. Federal programs, if that doesn't get increased, you may have to pick up some of their aides. But like the pre-K program, if you've got 4 classrooms, you're required to have 4 aides. For this year, I tried taking every penny of the supply money out to see if we still couldn't handle it. Of course, that program has been approved for next year. I mean, we're gonna get it, but we don't know how much.
And we won't know until the governor's budget is passed. And so probably sometime in mid-April at that point. But if you want to look at how much we received, you can look at the email I sent back in January from Mary Ann Dursey did, those BEP figures. And with what the required local matching funds of $2,646,000, BEP total funding, state and local, was $14,700,000.
Local match can be a misnomer, because we're probably getting more than that.
We don't.
That number, the way it was explained to me, that local match number that's on that BEP worksheet there, is the amount they would have to, the commission would have to give us if we got down to 500 students. They would still have to give us that much money. But they're giving us more now, and as long as there's no significant drops in enrollment, they're still gonna have to maintain the level they've got now.
Yeah, the FY 22 local contribution was $3 million, just a little over $3 million, $3,040,969. And that's on this other page where it said that was the FY 2022 local contribution was $3 million into our schools. And that's where you get your total of, total there.
14,700,000.
At least that was what's on the BEP figure that was in January. We've not received anything in February.
May I ask a question? In this budget process that the board goes through, how are you doing that? Who contributes to the budget process? I mean, who's involved in the budget the board has to approve the budget, but it has to come from somewhere.
It's the director.
It just doesn't come from.
The director and the staff, actually get this together and say, okay, we have this, what do we desire for the next year? Is the budget, is all of our staff. Meaning, if you look at, depending on, when I look at this, the regular instruction program, teacher's career ladder, that's where Douglas assists us and say, okay, this is where this is coming from in the regular instruction program. Every line item that you see has a story, every single line item. And so when we look at, we start with this right here, that Douglas has prepared for us, seeing the budget estimates from previous years and what we actually spent. So we'll get that will start the process. And then usually what we try to do then, and that's what I'm going to talk on later tonight, is to, look at regular instruction program. Well, who contributes it and who is in there? And that's where your teachers are that, getting the CCA's involvement. Then your alternative instruction, then it goes down special ed, then vocational, and we just go down those line items to say this is the story in regard to the line. That's what we have done in the past.
For instance, math department, to the board and say, we want, all new calculators, that's gonna cost $15,000. And then the board makes a decision, let's put that in the budget, or let's give them half of it, or not give it to them, or whatever. That's where a lot of it comes from. And then the board may have projects, like, I know one year we replaced all the windows in the schools, and we budgeted for that, and we did that because that was a board decision that they made ahead of time.
Right, that came from the board down. What I'm looking for is for it to come up. You know, it's easy to go over past budgets and say, well, we think we're gonna get this much, so we'll give this much money. And then you take that and say, well, this is how we're gonna spend it. I've always been involved in budgets, and I've always required my departments to submit their budget to me so that I can, you know, consolidate that and make decisions. And it seems to me as though these budgets seem to sort of flow downhill and not uphill.
Mr. Reagan, I think it's kind of ironic you said that. I had some conversations with some other school districts in recent months. And you find I never want to put more work on any of our principals or supervisors. But I found it unique that 2 of those 3 worked much like that. Each principal from each school brought a proposed budget. Each department brought a proposed budget to the board. That seems like it would make more sense, because if Mr. Nichols wants 2 additional math teachers, he can ask for that.
Well, Mr.
And we
Nichols
would
is
know
in a
those,
position to know the needs.
right,
And we look down and say, this is how much money we got.
and this is what we're gonna give you,
You know.
yeah,
And he's got to scramble around and decide how to use that. Whereas if you came to the board and said, these are my needs, what can we do?
And I feel like we've done that. Last year, I believe I had that opportunity to go before the board and say, these are the needs that I need for Kenny County High School. You know, and I don't know if we're gonna entertain that again this year, that in a budget meeting where you have each school just go and that's their night and they present that to the board.
Sometimes it's not known because he may wait until school starts and find out, oh, I've got enough freshman algebra teachers, I need 2 more math teachers
Yeah.
or whatever, and you may not know that until after school starts.
Well, you know, there's always those circumstances, but you have to begin somewhere.
I will kind of contradict just for a second there, Douglas. On my end, usually I have projections on how many 8th graders are coming up. So I have some numbers that I kind of know, hey, yes, I am gonna have that.
We always have growth positions in our budget, and I don't remember a year where some of them weren't used.
Yeah.
Because they just things, they may have 2 more first graders at North than what it takes to have another classroom.
So I mean, is that something we can do?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was gonna suggest tonight, to
Present.
start going through line item by line item and bringing schools in, bringing supervisors in and saying, okay, this is what, and they'll do a presentation. This is our money this is what we received last year. This is what we need to operate in FY '24. And then you do that and you bring them in and say, okay, this is your, like Mr. Nichols has needs right now, that's why he's here tonight. And just like any supervisor, going from Dr. Milton down to Ms. Patterson, to every single department, technology. Technology is always going up. I mean, there's always software you got, there's always this you got to do. And then every one of those departments, like Mr. Reagan said, has unique needs that normally don't go down.
Well, I feel like we need to get on that because, you know, it's the end of February and the budget's due at the beginning of May, so. I feel like we need to.
So we just need a starting place is what we need. I mean, when you start going down from line item 71-100, you start going down through that. That's what we've done in previous boards. It's gone down through every single line item. So if you look at an example for teachers on 71-100-116, that's the biggest line item, the biggest amount you're gonna find in the budget. How much would that go up if we went to $45,000? Would be my question. And I would have Douglas figure that in, how many teachers,
That's where you're gonna, if you do that, I'm telling you, you're gonna have to find places in your budget to cut several $100,000. I don't mean 100. You're gonna have to cut several $100,000. Because like Mr. Reagan said, Esther has helped us on a lot of this, and they may help us some more before this year is out. But you just can't take, one-time revenues that you get and start spending it if you don't have a revenue stream to support it.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, maybe we could just get some different options, like, you know, if we start them at a little less, or, I mean, not less than what they're making now, I'm not saying that. Just different, you know, different options. If we pay them this, it'll be this much. If we pay them this, it'll be this much. And just kind of see where we land.
You know, you may find that, when you run these projections, based on 45, you know, you can wipe out the rest of your budget. You may find it. So you need to have some alternative, you need to have some options there. And Douglas mentioned, a good option, and that is to build in incentives within your current budget structure, within your current salary structure. You may want to go up to 41, but throw in extra incentive money throughout the spectrum of teachers and positions that you know, if they met those expectations or whatever the circumstances.
They've got that.
we do have differentiated pay now. However, we believe that that needs to be redone. We need to look at that, the board needs to look at that totally and see what we can do to restructure that. Because right now, you know, a large percentage of our teachers do get that, but we're not seeing the results that we want to see academically. So there's some things there that we would like to pursue there in regard to differentiated pay, that it just doesn't reward everybody, because we need to change that whole thing about differentiated pay. That we need to have a whole breakdown of that, and when the right time comes, we need to do that. And the state says this is it, due at a certain time. You've got to follow their lead on that. But that's something that we've already discussed among supervisors, is to see that done. So what I would like to see us do is to go back and see, get us times when we can look at these dates or times or whatever we need to meet more, and start looking at testimony in front of our supervisors to come in and say, and principals to come in and say, this is what we got.
I've
From the board.
done, and nobody asked me to do this, none of y'all did.
But we appreciate it. I don't even know what it is, but I know we appreciate it. Yes, thank you so much.
I've done a budget, and it's very preliminary. There's a lot of things that are not known. And it's based on a 42,000 starting teacher pay. And if you look at the last page, you're gonna see where we go into fund balance for $1,223,000. That's the kind of cuts I'm talking about. And again, it's very preliminary. We don't know what TISA is, you know, a lot of things we don't know.
No, I know y'all worked on getting people on pay scales. And I know there's some people that still are not on pay scale. Look at.
The ones that are on pay scales, I have made a commitment that we're gonna get everybody on pay scale. And the only ones that aren't on pay scales right now are just mainly central office, who are those employees that are not like the employees in the district.
And I put 3% on them. Like again, nobody told me to do that, I just did in this budget. And you, it's on that front page, you don't have time to go through this line item to line item, it's something you need to get to study.
Is our support staff here, Mr. Bell? No, we-
It's something, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer. Mr. Curtis was talking about some of the expenditures that change from year to year. I think this year we had 66,000 in textbooks, and next year I asked Dr. Melton what she thought, and she first told me 180,000, and then she said, no, that adoption's been postponed, so we put 75,000. Yeah, but a year that you have like a math or science adoption,
Which we will next year.
that jumps a lot, that makes it go up a lot in the textbook line
We're
item.
looking at textbooks, all those textbooks in the hall, we'll be adopting textbooks this next year. Dr. Melton needs to testify to that. What? If we're, that ESSER, that part of that ESSER, and that's where Stephanie needs to testify too, part of that in ESSER was utilized for textbooks.
And textbooks are 7110449, if you want to look that up on your budget there.
Yes,
But I know a few years ago, I don't know, we went up doing science and math or something all in one year, and it was just hot. We had to scrimp, save, and pull from several different places to make that work.
I think it was 2 years ago, they took textbooks completely out, right?
They did, and that's another ESSER thing, and Marcia and I talked about that. There's some money in ESSER that'll pay for that this year, what they're gonna buy this year. But as Mr. Reagan said, that's gonna go away.
Well, and the thing about it is if you, raise pay on somebody, you can't come back next year and be like, no, we don't have the money, so we're gonna go
Right. It's
back
gotta
down.
be,
It's gotta be something we can maintain.
No, it's math that we're looking at.
math textbooks are done, yeah. And then you have science and then social studies, and after that, as we move along.
I noticed, there's a significant drop in, local, projected total local taxes.
Local what?
Taxes,
Your sales tax numbers down.
Well, there's a story behind that. I was told by one of our fiscal consultants several years ago, if you had a good year in sales tax, you might not have a good one next year if the recession hits. And if you put too much in there, you can have an MOE problem. So that can be raised. It might need to be raised a little bit.
But you're just being concerned.
But that was the reason behind that. Actually, this year's budget was 850,000, but I changed that number to 1.2 million because I think that's gonna come in.
we on track on that, Neil? Do you know, on sales tax to?
Not what I track. But I can find out.
There's Diane there.
And there's that, and I've got that explained on here, there's that $1.5 million grant from the, got the name of the grant, but it's a vocational grant, and it lasts up to 4 years, I think. She thinks she's gonna spend the biggest part of it this year, so we put it all in the budget. It's not reflected on this, but whatever we spend, we'll get reimbursed for, so it's not gonna affect your bottom line. And then if, when we get down closer to the end, we'll have to put whatever we think is left in next year's budget. But it'll be revenue and expenditure, so it won't affect the bottom line. That's one of the biggest grants that GP has had. And I found out late today, my consultant gave me a account number, accounting code for TISA, so I've got the revenue code, but that was, that quitting time, I didn't change it, but that'll be one thing we have to change. But you can look at your regular teacher line item, 710-116. We estimated for this year, 5,181,000. Next year's 5,659,000. And then all the taxes that go on top of that. We do not know about health insurance yet. It was, I think, a 7% increase this year. They don't normally follow that with an increase that much, but just can't count on it. We don't know what the retirement rates are for teachers yet, so we just use what we've got this year.
As far as overall headcount though, your projected budget has the exact same number of certified and non-certified as this current year. I used the current teachers, not what we had at the beginning of the year, but the current teachers that we've got now.
And going back to your
Are the
percentage,
positions that we have now, we've got some that are unfilled.
So you counted the ones that are, you counted the ones that are unfilled in this,
What?
unfilled,
Yes.
okay.
to answer Mr. Reagan's question there, the budget estimate was $850,000 in year-to-date was $584,904.85 in January of 2023. So the percent of that was 68.81, so we're,
But you have to remember, in June for teachers, they're gonna get 3 checks.
no, this was the sales tax notice.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of sales tax of $850,000 in the budgeted estimate
And
was
in
$584.
February, when you get your February report, which we don't have the numbers yet, that'll be the biggest property tax month. But then it cuts off pretty much after that, because it's just gonna be delinquents, that kind of thing coming in. You have like October through February, your biggest property tax numbers. And that's another thing we don't know how much a penny might bring in, they haven't told us anything.
That's being discussed, I'm assuming, in the budget committees now.
We usually find that out.
Right, Ms. Crystal, start over, catch Ms. Crystal.
This is just something for you to study. I don't think you get your lesson up sitting here at the table tonight, but take a look at it. See what you.
I know this took a lot of work, Douglas, to put this together like this. And, that's a good starting point to appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what you said 42, you started teachers at 42. Okay.
And that's just an assumption. And
That puts us in the whole 1,223,000.
I used the formula that the state gave us previously for like starting pay is 42, and for a master's is 42 plus an amount. EDS is 42 and a different amount. A doctorate is more. So I use the same spread, and that all can change.
And then this puts us in the hole, a little over $1 million. But we're anticipating getting $1 million more.
Maybe,
Maybe.
and maybe sales tax is better, so maybe it's a wash. Maybe there's more positions that have to be decided.
Maybe
still.
Tilsa will surprise us and give us more than what we're expecting. That can help. As I said, this
1.223 to make it a wash, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
this
Keep being fun.
this is not something that's gonna go across the street. This is just the start.
Right.
I really appreciate this, Douglas.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's just kind of hard to do a budget when you don't know how much money you're getting. Just wish we knew how much money are we getting, and then we would know. Like, it's almost an impossible task, because you don't know how much money you're gonna have.
I found it odd in the last 2 years that we're given dates, but the dates don't match up.
Exactly.
Like with with what, the information that we need.
Who gives us the May date? Like, who says it's gonna be in by May? Is that
State
a
law,
state thing?
TCA.
Okay.
You have to have a budget to the commission.
by May 15th.
Okay, and that's a state.
It's a state law.
They may send it back to you.
And they have multiple.
Commission passes the
Three
budget.
times.
In fact, them sending it back
Twice.
has worked in our favor because we have more information later on and we can change our numbers to what, reflect more what we found at state.
Okay.
And the commission then, when it goes to them, it's still all, I mean, all the way up to the very end. I mean, there was a proposal to cut us, what was it, 11 cents last year? That was on the table, quickly got solved. I think Wade was over there with me when that happened. And it was devastating, but I mean, when they said that, same amount of money, well, no, it wasn't. It's not. But that whole argument's a whole other thing. You look at tax rates over the years, what has occurred. And I'm not gonna get into that because it's, you know, that's one that's just a bad deal. But Kristen will tell you, there were cuts, they were trying to cut down all the way into, and then they said, well, it's gonna increase MOU. Excuse me, it's gonna increase MOE. That's not a bad thing, folks. You're having kids, increasing MOE is not a bad thing. But to them, that was the most, the unpardonable sin that they were going to do. To some.
To some.
That's true, that's true. Neil always tries to get more positive instead of negative, but we've got a new commission. They're a more pro-education commission, I think. I would like to think that. I would like to think that.
With you,
See, I'm trying to be positive, folks, here. If you're listening, county commissioners, thank you. Curtis is being positive here.
I'm getting ready to leave and it's not because you're on the county.
You know, I think
I was like,
Amy, he was not what, Amy, he was not what, he was what.
I'm trying to just got a text from him, he's like, I gotta go, I'm on my way. I promised the niece we're going to the ball junior pro championship.
Absolutely.
We understand.
Yeah, I promise I'm not leaving. It just happened to happen today.
But there are those who understand our budget better than others, and that's a good thing.
And there
Because,
are people that sit there late into the night looking over these numbers and want you to do what is right. Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, and losing sleep and, I mean, they really care about it and they wanted to give whatever they can to whoever needs it.
and that motion got zonked right off the bat, which I was breathing after that. It got zonked right off the bat, and let's give the schools what we need.
There was one year, but they never approved the budget that we sent over there.
That's my first year, when
And,
I was here as director.
and so I didn't put it on the books and we were in September, maybe in October. And finally, somebody at the comptroller's office said, here's what you do. You put the property tax number in there that they say that they've allocated to you, and then put the rest of your budget in there as you, I don't know if that was the right way, but that's what they said do, and that's what we.
That's what we did. That's my first year as
But
director.
that year, they never approved the budget that we sent over there.
In the championship.
you were gonna say something.
I think this has been, I think we have some things we need to do, board members. I think, and I think that you at the table know that what I'm about to say is probably the least thing that I want to do. But I think that we've got to meet with just the five. And we have to have some direction that we know we have to go in order to get feedback from the people that are around this table. I think that's gonna have to start with thinking, we want to go with this 42, or do we want to see if we can do 45, or if we want to do 43 or 44? For these teachers, for our educators. I think that we need to reach out, and I would love to do so, to each school and to each department. And between the March workshop and maybe an additional meeting, we have them come in a very concise way. I think it would be good if we got an email with a report that we can look over prior.
Yeah.
And then they are there for questions. So this is an expedient process, not one that takes hours and hours to get finished. I don't mind doing that. I will reach out and set those, but I think the 5 of us need to come up with an additional time to meet, because I don't think we can do that all at the March workshop.
Right. Before the next budget meeting.
I think we need to meet before the next budget meeting, if there's a way to do that. And that budget meeting, this budget meeting is what I'm talking about. So budget workshop with just the 5 of us, which we've had many of those in years past. This advisory committee meets again on the 27th of March. So if we could find,
The week before that's looking great for county community. And then we
Please
can
don't
back
do
them
that.
out.
okay? Let me look really fast.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna make a comment.
Yes, sir, please.
Now, take this for just what it's worth, but I'm totally an outside person here, looking into the situation, and I feel like there's been an attempt on the part of the school board to have a better relationship with the county commission, by including 2 county commissioners on this budget committee. What I have learned and what I've been told in the past, it has not been a real good relationship. You know, it seems odd to me that as a community, whether it be a county commission or a school board, that there's not unity in what we want, and that's for doing what we can, the best we can for our children in their education.
Absolutely.
And I think politics should be erased from this formula.
Absolutely.
That sounds like an easy thing to do, but I think it should be.
Absolutely.
And like you said, we do have a new commission. And from what I've heard is that it's a commission that's more amenable to cooperating with and doing what's best for our community. You know, the basis of a good community growth is 2 things. It's your school system and it's your police force. If you don't have good on either side or on both sides, you're not gonna grow much. How many people do we have in this county that have children that go somewhere else to school? And why is it? I mean, y'all know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Y'all know the answer to that. And we need to, we need to become more united in our efforts and do the best we can. And that's my speech for the night.
I applaud that. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, and I'm not pointing to the county commission, but I'm just saying, as a representative, and you're here seeing what's going on and what we're trying to do. And I would just hope that this is communicated to the whole.
I mean, if I could, Terry, let me say that the partnership that we have, and right this moment, the partnership that we have from the county executive to the county commission has been marvelous.
Yeah.
We did, for this room itself, is a blend of education, helping the county with technology to make this possible tonight. And again, I'll give another example that's happening now, is that our technology folks, and we got the executive, the county commission wants to do the same thing that we're doing right here tonight. And so we've been working with the county executive, with our technology folks, that they were over there yesterday putting in, just like what we have here in this room, for the county commission and the judicial system to utilize. So it's that kind of cooperation that we have.
Yeah, that's good, that's good.
So we're doing those partnerships, just this building alone, the partnership that we've developed, thank you, that just alone to get things fixed and working together to do that has been, the last couple of years, really has been fantastic compared to what previous was there. So I'm seeing progress. And probably the longest person here in the room except Douglas, I didn't call you old Douglas. But being in here to see this whole process from day one when I started, and then being an observer, you know, for 10 years before that, is much better than what we had. So there's positives here. That's what I told Amy going out. I said to Brett that, hey, that thanks for, you know, the help there that we've received. And it has gotten better, which I applaud the commission and having you here on this committee has been great, especially the board. So that's my speech.
Yeah, we'll tidy that up with one thing, and y'all probably gonna laugh by what I will, liken it to. Anybody ever watch The Lion King? Yep. Yeah. And, one of my favorite scenes is when Rafiki smacks Simba in the head with his little stick, and it doesn't matter, because it's in the past. So I think that we might need to think, it's really good right now. We're in the present, we're moving forward, we can do this, and let's just forget about the situations that have happened in the past. I think that would probably be good. So, moving forward with that, we just talked about some things that we wanted to get done. We were visiting a date really quick. Which week are you going to be gone, Mr. Trammell? The week of the 6th through the 10th? No, that's,
No, we leave the 10th
you leave the 10th,
and come back the 19th.
you come back the 19th. And Canyon County's fall break,
Spring break is the
spring
19th.
break begins the 19th.
That leaves us 0 options before the 27th.
Unless you would do something on the 6th, the 8th, or that next, the first week. The first is on a Wednesday, the 2nd. County Commission meets on March the 2nd.
The 6th is my daughter's birthday, so.
I have an idea. Throw this out. What if we put the Budget Advisory Committee, this workshop, this advisory board, why don't we keep the 27th to just board members? And then come up with an alternate date for the advisory committee to work. Ms. Alexander, Mr. Alvon, Mr. Reagan, and Mr. Jennings, would that be acceptable to you? With the 4 that are here outside of the board, would that be okay? And when I say that, I'm talking like maybe even just think of.
We've got Miss Dursky coming though.
And we have, you saw how that was, how we had to work on that. I'm gonna be gone on the 27th, but Ms. Dursky certainly can be here. Like I say, I'm gonna be gone to legislative conference in Nashville on that 27th, 28th. And then 29th.
Is there a thought on rescheduling her? I mean, I know she's very busy and.
I'd like for everybody to hear her. I mean, because she's gonna give me the latest, give us the latest on Tuesday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we move
we
the
ask her?
budget
We
advisory,
can ask her.
Even to the 28th or the 30th. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Even to the 28th or the 30th. Ask her that, would you mind
Yeah,
doing that?
yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we're out of options really for the month of March for the board members, it looks like. So if we could set just the board members on the 27th, I will reach out, like I said I would, to the supervisors and the principals and kind of try to get that and kind of the idea that we kind of have of what we want. And then, we can look at that. We can also talk probably in depth that night about what we want to look at for teacher pay. We also, if you look on item number 4 here, on tonight's thing, tonight's agenda, it's the 24 budget for the school year 23-24, and line by line items that probably need additional focus. I think that falls to us too. I don't know if anyone here sees something that we're not, but we have to think through as a board. I know something was mentioned, as everyone, we've already mentioned it in a previous meeting, and it was something we've got to make sure we discuss is, we discussed splitting up some supervisors' roles. And so I think we've got to think through that together as a board of five. And the additional, line items that have been brought forth already. Okay, I know that Mr. Medford had some things that he wanted us to make sure that we looked at. And so we've got to do that. Is there any other line by line items that anybody here wanted to go ahead and get on our radar as we move in to looking over some stuff the next month?
I just have a question.
Okay, Stephanie brought up a couple of things, the Esther's gonna be going away, nurse line and different things.
And we have to
We
make
can
sure
go
we have
back
that.
and look at that, and it's
When it has operation of plant supervisor director, and then it has maintenance of plant supervisor director, is that two different people, or is that the
It's the
same?
same person with salary split between the two, and that was something the board directed me to do. And she does function in both positions.
Okay. I figured that's what it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. McMakin, you've been kind of quiet over there tonight. You have anything at all that you want to kind of pay attention to or look over before the next budget meeting?
Media's not here to quote me right
Yeah.
Well, we need to, one position, we really need to think about it, the data person.
I will tell you too, if we put on the list, Madam Chairman, the athletic trainer position is going up. That line, wherever that line is going up to 24,000. Is that what we're thinking, Courtney? I think it was what last year, 17 or 18, what, I'm sorry, 18. So I remember it's pretty good on that, so. But that's going up to 24.
He's doing,
Just for the high school?
he doing it in the spring sports?
Yes. Yeah, he's not gonna be at every, he can't be at all.
But yes,
He's
But
on
yeah,
call.
baseball, he's on
But
call.
all the coaches have his number,
Yes,
okay.
but I did want to bring that up, and Mr. Bedford, of course, had some stuff too, that he definitely was there.
That's when you get back together, let's get ready to review.
Well, and also, I was just kind of looking at, going through some things here, and it seems like some things, for instance, librarian, you've got librarian on here. Why did the number not go down this year? Because you don't have, librarians at every school.
We took that into consideration.
But it didn't, the number didn't go down on the budget.
Well, those small schools though only had a part-time librarian that was paid as a librarian assistant. They weren't paid out of the librarian line item because they weren't certified librarians.
Oh, okay, I got you. And then like custodian, just little things like that, like you would expect to see that number decrease because you're not paying as many, right?
You know, but you put them on you put the custodians on a scale. And so that,
Cost you more.
you know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
I'm sorry?
I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's kind of what happened, and of course, they move up a notch each year.
Okay.
There's custodians, He can probably, you know what?
He has a vacancy right now, folks, if you're listening. to
Oh,
this.
I'm sure they
Mr.
are
Nichols has a
That's one of
vacancy
the
right
most volatile line items in the budget, because you've got them coming and going. I mean, you'll get some that'll stick with you, but
The support staff, like we said, was what was worked on last year to get on a pay scale, and that was achieved. The only thing really now, that I think I'll throw this out here, and I've really thought about, I don't think this is going, I'm gonna have to get some wisdom, though. I don't think this would cost us anything. That support staff, the only thing that we really did not remedy for them or fix for them, they don't get sick days or personal days. And I've thought this through in my head. When they are out, we do not put a sub in their place. So I don't know why it would cost us any more money if they just kept, if we allotted them 2 personal days and 3 sick days. Why that would
So
not,
like our custodians and that, they don't get sick days?
right, if they are not there, they do not get paid. And there's no sub coming in to pay, like, why would that hurt? If we know we're spending this much, why can we not allot them those days? I think that we should. I do not think that it is a good thing that goes on at all. I think that am I following it right? It would not cost us any money to give them days. And so I think that we need to fix that.
Yeah,
This
that's a
year.
little bit awful.
you've got a certified teacher acting as
It's
a
all
custodian right now. One with an EDS, I think. How it was, have it south. Anita Arnold.
Former retired. Jessica knows, yeah.
She's just a worker. She just wants to work.
You can't outwork her.
Yeah, she's a worker.
We're fortunate to have her too, folks, we really are. And we've got people that have stepped up, you know, like Mr. Nichols at the high school with his staff. They've just stepped up and taken done what needs to be done.
Would very much say.
Whatever it takes is what that attitude's been. And as director, I appreciate that every day because you go in and it looks great. That didn't happen, folks. Trust me, that does not happen except with hard work.
All right, any other items? Before we adjourn, is there any more discussion? Mr. Nichols, I know you're here tonight. You said you were here. Was there something you wanted to say tonight or address us
I'm
about?
just thankful to be here.
I think we are.
I was just going to address about the athletic trainer, but we can do that on my night and have, you know, said thank you for that opportunity to let me address the needs of County High School,
Yes, sir. We look forward to hearing from you.
and I will make sure it's free.
I'm just trying to hold my commitment of we will never have another 3.5 hour meeting.
I'm with you.
All right. Anything else from anyone? Anything at all? Any suggestions, comments?
I think go back and look what Douglas has done. If you have, and here's what I would do. I'll give you a little hint. Sorry, Madam Chairman, I'll just give just a little hint. If you would take this right here, this is what I've done multiple times. You take this and then you take your expenditure sheets and just watch your percentages there in your expenditure sheets. Whatever that line item is, that's where I found on the taxes. You just find that right there where he's got it right there in the summary sheet on the revenues that you find on taxes, and you see what was projected, and then you see what your year to date to see how it's moved along. The easy and quick way to do that would be my suggestion to the new board members to, like Derek did it last year and he's done it, but that's what you take this to see your running total. If you have a question about what's there, then look right here on the current financial sheet, find that. Just a little teaching moment.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn tonight, and we will, the 5 of us will meet again on the 27th, and then we will look specifically at the 28th or the 30th for this advisory committee to meet with her. Okay? All right, we'll give her those 2 options. Thank you. We are adjourned.